Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Sorry, it took me a minute to get ready. I had some stuff to take care of on my end, and I am quite tired. It was a long, very annoying day at work. Exam week is no fun. It is definitely no fun. Go ahead and pull up the chapter for tonight, and we'll get ready to read in just a minute. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Just got on. All right. So, welcome, one and all, to the Raven's Writing Room, or Raven Reads, or the Raven's Roost, whatever you want to call it. Hello, everybody. Hello. See some familiar faces. Yep, Nina's here, Tech's here, JT's here, Atlas here. We got a Vulpecula. Great. Cynic. Awesome. Glad to have all y'all here. Glad that some of y'all are back. So, for those who don't know, I am a published writer. I love telling stories, and on Monday nights, I like to read some of my stories for you guys. And we are in the middle of reading the Tale of Tomaki. We just finished up Act 1 of the Tale of Tomaki, the first arc, if you will. And we are moving into Arc 2. We are moving into the Daikon arc, Part 1, because Daikon's arc is broken into 2 parts. It's a really long arc. But we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. So, a little bit of background for those who don't know. The Tale of Tomaki was one of my earliest superhero stories. It tells the story of a Saiyan, from Dragon Ball Z, from my own sort of made-up version of Earth, and it will be a lot of fun to read this with you guys. Before we get started, just to reiterate the rules of the stream, we are here to do stories. We're not here to talk video games or history or politics or anything like that. We're just going to keep conversation limited to stories. Please do not ask me questions about For Honor or Dead by Daylight or any of those other things. I will not answer them. Secondly, please keep all things respectful in chat. You're free to talk to each other or to me about the story or about anything, but if you get mean or critical, like, for example, I sometimes have to read female voices, and I don't have a female voice, obviously, so please don't go like, ha, Raven, you sound stupid. I won't appreciate it, and I'll put you in timeout. Just don't do that. And third and finally, let's have a good time, okay? So, one of my stories, The Tale of Tomaki, we are picking up in Chapter 24, the beginning of the Daikon arc. I wrote this back in June 2nd, 2016. That's right, June 2nd, 2016. So this is almost 8 or 9 years old. All right, let's do it. Clear my throat. It came streaking through the sky like a comet, and it struck the ground outside of Shan City, leaving a massive crater in the earth. Local authorities rushed out to investigate, and when they arrived, they found something they were not expecting. Rather than a large rock, there was a round sphere made of some strange kind of metal. The police and law enforcement who gathered around it were nervous to approach, but when they heard the strange object suddenly hiss, all of them backed away fast, drawing their weapons. A door on the ball suddenly slid open that they hadn't seen before, and out stepped a young man, at least at first glance. His brown hair was a mess on his head, and his body had rippled muscles upon it. However, that was where his human-like appearance ended. From his backside grew a long, monkey-like tail, not unlike the Golden Warrior of Shan City. The clothing he wore marked him as something otherworldly, red and blue armor of some kind with only straps over his shoulder, no sleeves to hide his powerful arm muscles. Over his left eye was a strange device with a screen that was blue in color. He walked out of the pod like a conquering warrior and glanced around him, tapping the device on the side of his head. No one breathed a word against him or to him. All were just staring. Huh. There are some unusually high power levels on this rock, the man grumbled. Nothing that'll prove much of a challenge, though. Disappointing. Hey! One police officer finally spoke up. The man in the crater glared up at the officer who spoke. Who are you? You're annoying me, the stranger sneered. The police pulled their guns and aimed them directly at the newcomer. Get on your knees and put your hands behind your head, the officer shouted. The man suddenly smirked and began levitating off the ground, rising out of the crater and hovering above the police around him, who now were all staring open-mouthed at the creature they'd angered. Well, that's rather rude, isn't it? You should really know your place in the grand scheme of things. His venomous gaze fell on the police officer who had spoken, and he pointed 2 fingers down at him. There was a flash of light, and suddenly the officer's torso was gone, leaving behind a pair of legs, gushing blood down, and finally collapsing as bits of the man he used to be fell like rain. The other officer screamed in terror and leapt back from the dead and destroyed corpse. The monster who had done the deadly deed just grinned malevolently. Weaklings and fools. That's all I see here. I'm seeking real sport, the man growled. But if you really wish to know my name, I'll indulge you. You ought to know the name of your executioner. My name is Daikon. And remember it well, for what's left of your meaningless lives. Shoot him down! The officers all opened fire on Daikon, and Daikon merely laughed as the bullets bounced off of his body like rubber. Futile, Daikon cackled. He raised his hand over his head, and suddenly a brilliant ball of blue light appeared in it as he threw it down at the officers. The ball he threw exploded on impact, and all the officers were thrown from meters were blown around, thrown for meters across the ground. Those who were still breathing were unconscious. But that didn't last. Daikon drifted to the ground and walked amongst the corpses. Any that still breathed, he systematically killed with a single kick to their heads, removing them from their necks one by one. Finally, only one man remained alive. Officer Jenny Blake was now near wetting herself. Daikon glanced down at the remaining officer and lowered himself just a little to face her. My, what a lovely specimen, he grinned. Tell me, would you consider yourself attractive by the standards of your species? Jenny felt tears running down her face as she wasn't sure how to answer. Daikon sighed. A female of few words. So be it. But if you would be so kind, perhaps you can answer a few questions for me? Just don't kill me, Jenny begged. Just answer my 3 questions and I won't hurt you, Daikon promised. Question 1. What is this place? A city of some sort? Yes, you're just outside of Shan City, she squeaked. Good. Question 2. I'm picking up on some strange power levels. Are there any warriors near the city worth my time fighting? he asked. Ginny gulped. Well, we have some mutant activity, and the occasional cyborg, I suppose, but nothing like you. Well, I mean, there's only one I can think of, the Golden Warrior, Tomaki, the young Ginny cried. Daikon's eyes went wide and he smiled broadly. Tomaki? That name sounds Saiyan. Is this Tomaki a Saiyan? I don't know what that is. Never mind that. Just thinking out loud, Daikon answered sharply. Now your third question. Where can I find these warriors? Daikon asked. The android girl, Melody, and Tomaki both live in Jongboro in the heart of the city, but he protects the whole city, Ginny explained. Daikon nodded and a sadistic grin appeared across his face. Thank you for your information. You're free to go. Suddenly, Daikon's hand began to glow as he lifted it up, pointing its destructive brilliance directly at Ginny, who was now screaming in terror. Wait, you said you wouldn't hurt me! I have a son! Please! I did say I wouldn't hurt you. But what made you think a predator should care about the wants of the prey? Your son was unlucky to have been born to a weak race. Farewell. The explosion of energy swallowed her whole. Her scream of terror was lost in its roar. When the dust settled, there was nothing left. Daikon just rolled his shoulder muscles a little, stretching after cramping in the Saiyan pod. Mutants, cyborgs, and a golden warrior. The name Tomaki sounds almost Saiyan in origin. If that's true, maybe there will be some fun to be had here after all. Daikon then glanced at the city ahead of him and marched towards it. But first, I think I'll mark the occasion. He clenched his fists tightly, ready to gather his energy together and greet this city of weaklings. His scouter upon his face didn't detect any power levels over 600. Just mere mutants, most likely. That doesn't seem that worth it. But I guess even a pile of twigs can still make for a decent fire. So, let's light this place up. Faster, Tomaki, Hayato instructed. I kicked off the ground and rocketed towards the furthest tree like a missile, rebounding off of it and rocketing to the wall of the dojo, and off that as well. I was ricocheting around the field like a pinball trapped in a machine, but my speed would even put a pinball to shame. If I went any faster, he might become nothing more than a blur in the wind. I said faster. I can sense your movements. You have to best that. Break that speed. Master, I'm trying, I snapped back. That's exactly the problem. I told you to do it, not try to do it. Before I knew what was happening, I suddenly felt the harsh sting of a fist striking me across the cheek as Master Hayato caught me out of midair with a solid punch. I hit the ground hard and groaned as I just crashed face first into Hayato's fist. Ow! I screamed. Tomaki, you have such incredible strength and power. You have easily surpassed me in both regards. But without technique, control, and discipline, your strength is just that. Raw and untamed power. I understand that, but I asked you to help me control my Super Saiyan power, not run through these standard exercises. You've hardly gained control of your power in your basic form. How do you expect to control the power of your Super Saiyan form if you can't control this that you have now? You could barely stand up against Mamaragon. Your technique is rusty. Your speed and strength are both impressive, granted, against an average mutant. But you said yourself you had a bad feeling about... Point taken, Master, I growled back. Hey, you two taking a break? Hayato and I looked to see a girl with long blonde hair tied back in a ponytail running towards us. I smiled when I saw her and stood up. Melody, I called. Melody was hurrying down to us holding a few bottles of water. I brought some water. Hayato looked down at me and shook his head. Take a break. But then I want you back at it in 15. He walked off with Melody sat down next to me, handing me a water bottle. Thank you. Melody, you don't have to do this, you know. Oh, I owe you my life, Tomaki, she insisted. Being here to help you train is the least I could do. Besides, I'm the only person strong enough that could help keep up with you, you know? I had been so happy when Melody had recovered. The team of scientists and doctors had managed to remove whatever programming was controlling her decisions, and she'd wanted to return to school with me. But things hadn't been so simple for her. Ever since the incident where she and I had exchanged blows, the school had been cruel towards Melody, treating her like a criminal, and not considering that she'd been manipulated. Yeah. Though I stood up for her in school, Melody was eventually forced to be removed from the school by the administration when too many angry parents demanded her removal. I stuck by her side after that, though, and she appreciated it. In return, she moved into Hayato's dojo to help me train, being my occasional sparring partner. In that time, she gained a few new skills and upgrades to her abilities, making her that much more skilled, but still not my equal. You don't owe me anything, I argued. You didn't deserve to die or be kicked out of school.
Whatever. That school wasn't helping me reach my goals anyway. The only reason I started going there was to fulfill the mission my creator wanted for me.
Yeah, you don't talk about him much, do you, your creator? I sucked from the bottle of water as she sighed and rubbed her side.
His name was Dr. Franco, but aside from that, I'd rather not go into it, Melody answered. Look, that life is behind me, thanks to you. I can finally pursue the dreams I want to. I want to be a real singer and go on tours and everything. I don't want to fight my whole life.
And yet you train with me and help me stop crimes on occasion.
Well, no harm in knowing how to defend myself. But you've helped me so much, Tomaki. You spared my life when I was beaten right by you. You let me move into this dojo. Won't your girlfriend get jealous? She teased.
I blushed a little about her jab. I don't live here. I live with Dr. Nicole most of the time. And besides, Victoria understands the situation. Though she's teasing me about it, though, just like you are.
You do make a cute couple. I think it's really romantic.
If you say so. I tried hard not to blush and failed.
And to think that she's dating the hero of Sean City, the one who defeated the evil Mamaragon himself. She really is a lucky lady.
Melody continued to tease, and I just shook my head. Well, what about you, though? Don't you have anyone special out there for you?
Melody smiled sadly and shook her head. No, and likely I never will. I am a machine, Tomaki. I doubt there are any gentlemen out there who would find me sexually appealing, and even if they did, I was not programmed to function in that manner. Dr. Franco designed me to be a machine of destruction, he called it, not a love bot of any sort.
I had no idea, I gasped, slightly disgusted by how this Dr. Franco had treated Melody.
Oh, don't be sorry. Frankly, I don't mind that too much. I can still feel emotions and affection, so it's not really a big loss for me.
Melody grinned. Well, for what it's worth, I do find you attractive.
Oh, you stop. Now you really will make Victoria jealous. But don't worry, I won't tell her.
The two of us laughed for a bit until I heard Hayato run to the door. Master, there's been an emergency, he shouted. Bay Borough has been attacked by some supernatural criminal. How powerful? I asked. He leveled no less than 4 office complexes with a single blast from his hand. This one won't be easy, Tomaki, and if the news is correct... If it's correct? They said this criminal landed in a space pod outside the city, and he sports a monkey tail. I rose to my feet fast, the bottle of water in my hand dropping. I felt myself freeze and my hands began to sweat. A strange feeling began to sweep over me at this news. It was more than I expected, and the last thing I would ever consider. There's another Saiyan here? One of my own kind?
Tomaki, Melody whispered, would you like me to come with you?
Yeah, but don't get involved. I want to meet this Saiyan. I want to know about my people. Tomaki, be careful, Hayato warned. Remember, your mother died hoping you'd become better than your kind. Become more than just a killing brute. I'm not going to become like them. But Master, I can't pass up the chance to learn more about where I came from. I need to do this, Hayato. Be careful, Tomaki, Hayato warned. I ran out into the field and rocketed into the air, a trail behind me marking where I'd been. I flew north to Bay Borough, my thoughts racing about how I'd deal with the Saiyan there, how I'd speak to him, what he'd be like. I wasn't sure, but my heart raced with both fear and excitement. This fight would be like none other I'd ever had. Chapter 25. It took little to no time for me to fly to Bay Borough. It was only a 20-minute flight to Bay, and I already felt my heart rate increasing. Smoke was rising from the center of the metropolis. I glanced back and could see a small streak running along the highway below me. I smiled to myself, recognizing Melody running underneath me. She didn't want me to fight alone against the Saiyan, if I really was one. I wasn't sure what to expect, but if it really was a Saiyan here on Earth, I had to be the one to face him. I closed my eyes and focused in on the strong energy in the area. I felt out the energy of everything around me, and then I felt it. A massive amount of energy ahead of me. More than I'd ever felt. Ever. Easily surpassing my Master Hayato, Melody, even Mamaragon. I dove down, following the source, forgetting about Melody behind me, and instead trying to catch sight of the source of the power. I landed in a park area where trees had been ripped up and uprooted like common plants. The ground was scorched, and there were a few bodies of police in military uniforms scattered around. Standing amongst them was a man, close to my age by the look of him, but it was hard to tell as I knew we Saiyans aged slower than humans. He wore body armor over him that was blue and red in color. He had dark, wild hair that was spiked and looked as fierce as his dark eyes. I saw his tail wrapped around him like a belt around his middle, and instantly I was intrigued. There was no mistaking that tail or its power. This was a Saiyan. I landed near him, and the Saiyan turned around to lock eyes with me. Our eyes met, and an unspoken sensation flashed between us, as if this meeting was fate itself. Two Saiyans destined to fight, destined to destroy each other. I felt myself clench up in anticipation, but to my surprise, the other Saiyan just stood there. Well, I'll be damned. I was right. There was another Saiyan on this rock, the Saiyan muttered. His face then burst into a wide grin. So there are more of us out there. And here I thought things were getting boring. I looked surprised. I know this as he laughed at me. So, Tomaki, right? I've heard your name a few times since getting here. That's a Saiyan name, no doubt about it. He reached up to a strange device on his face that covered one eye and clicked it. His smile faded to a frown of disgust. What? But judging by your clothing, you were likely raised here, and your power level's pathetic. 5,000. That's really all? I guess that means you're another one of the weaklings sent away at birth. Who are you? I demanded. What do you want here? That'd be a yes. Well, all the same, it's been a long time since I met another one of my own kind. The name is Daikon Tomaki, one of the elites of planet Vegeta, and former captain of the 2nd Destroyer Company. Though, I'm all that's left of that now, I'm the only one left of those comrades. As he spoke of his lost comrades, I noticed with a sense of fear that he was still smiling. Daikon. 2nd Destroyer Company. Elites. I was struggling to wrap my mind around it all. As I did, the grin got broader on his face. I see I've confused you. Definitely a weakling sent here at birth. Well, that's only natural. The lesser should worry only about their own lot in life, not concern themselves with their betters. All you need to know, weakling, is that while you were down here failing at even the most rudimentary task of exterminating this world, I have razed entire planets to dust, conquered whole worlds, and butchered countless foes. Why, you should be honored to be even standing in my presence. You still didn't tell me why you're here, I shouted. Daikon threw back his head and laughed, raising his hand to a nearby cluster of trees. I'm cleaning up your mess! As he spoke, a blast of light fired from his hand and reduced the tree cluster to burning cinders. Your mission, Tomaki, was to conquer this useless planet and prove yourself worthy as a Saiyan or die trying. Well, you're not dead, and this planet is far from destroyed. So what's your excuse? Lose your nerve? Forced into submission? I chose a new path for myself. I'm protecting this world. Daikon stopped his destruction and then turned to face me, his face twisted in a look of absolute loathing. That's a joke, right? You've got to be kidding me. You mean to tell me you've abandoned your nature as well? We Saiyans are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Destruction and conquest is in our very nature. Not only were you born weak, but you can't even raise yourself to the rank of a warrior? I felt something stir in me at that accusation. Was it my pride? Yes. There was something in my blood that bristled at the insult to my Saiyan pride. Watch what you say to me, I challenged. Didn't you just say that you were all that was left of your company or whatever? Clearly you've suffered your own losses. Even an elite isn't infallible. Losses? Daikon asked, surprised. His grin back on his face and a glint in his eye that suddenly turned my stomach. What losses? I've never lost in my life. But you said you were the last. I said I was the last of 2nd Destroyer Company. Because I killed the rest of them. I felt my body run cold. He killed his own comrades. Don't compare me to a weakling like you. I only detached myself from the weaklings who attempted to rule over me like King Vegeta. I serve no master now, but my nature couldn't be more important to me. You, on the other hand, abandon your purpose and your nature. You're a disgrace to your race. He started marching towards me as he tapped that odd device again on his face. He built up ki into his hand and pointed it at me. Killing a weakling like you is a mercy. He fired the blast from his hand, and I reacted instantly, leaping out of the way and rebounding off of a nearby car and rocketing towards Daikon, my pulled-back fist prepared to strike him across the cheek. He saw me coming and caught my wrist in his hand, flipping me over his shoulder and breaking my momentum with a single motion. I shouted and hit the ground, rolling away, and he smirked, touching that face device again. Oh, interesting. I see you were holding back some of your power. That attack you just did spiked you to 9,000. Can you go beyond that? Are you holding anything else back? I'll show you, you arrogant ass! I swung my leg up to meet him and he blocked, but he was forced to release me as I jumped out of his grip and away. Ready to fight for real? I asked. When you are. Daikon yawned. I hissed in anger. I couldn't use Super Saiyan. I still lacked control of it. In a populated city like this, going all out could be dangerous. But it shouldn't be a problem either way. If I could use my training with control, technique, and speed like Master Hayato said, I could overwhelm him. It was my only chance. But there was one thing that worried me. He'd killed his own comrades. Other Saiyans. If he could kill other Saiyans on his level, what could I do? I didn't have time to think about that. I had to fight. Let's go! When Melody rounded the corner to the park where Tomaki had vanished to, she looked but saw nothing at first. Her eyes skimmed the battlefield and saw blurs bursting around the park. There were blurs of figures rebounding off buildings and cars like rubber bullets, springing from place to place and exploding against each other with tremendous force. The speed of their strikes was hard to keep up with. It was Tomaki and the strange Saiyans she'd been warned about. Was this what a battle between Saiyans looked like? At one point, she saw two locked in the stalemate of rapid-fire punches, but there was a clear difference between the two, and that difference terrified Melody. Tomaki's technique was solid. His composure proved that. He was snarling and working with all his might to overpower his opponent and block incoming attacks while countering. It was like watching a savage animal defending his territory from a pack of wolves. But when she looked at the other Saiyan, he was smirking. There was a sinister, almost giddy smile on his face as he struck and defended against Tomaki. Was he even trying? How strong was this enemy? Damn you! I screamed. I leapt away from him, panting heavily. I'd managed to keep my Sekuken active, and yet he penetrated it so many times. How had he done it? How was he able to break through my guard like that? Daikon was breathing heavily too, but he never lost his smile. That's some interesting skills you got. You can anticipate my attacks the second I make them. You're pretty clever, Tomaki. I wouldn't have expected it from a weakling. But I got a question. What good is being able to anticipate what I'm going to do if you can't do anything about what I do? He sprinted at me and we collided. I struck fast with a high kick and he dodged, grabbing my leg and throwing me backwards. I fired a dual pair of ki blasts at him and he knocked them both aside like they were nothing. He fired his own ki wave and I leapt once more, losing my balance. Just as I managed to regain my footing, I looked to see him close the distance. How did... His fist came down like a force of nature, smashing me in the ground and knocking blood from my mouth. Did you really think you stood a chance against me? He scoffed. You might be a Saiyan in body, but you fall grossly short on skill and power. Ugh! You son of a... Trying to climb up, I was shoved back down by a kick from his deadly foot, and he pressed it down, holding me to the floor. With enough training and ferocity, you could be quite the formidable warrior, but you bask in your limited power. You pretend it's something worthwhile. You'll never compare to a Saiyan elite like myself. Get off me, I roared, powering up and sending him jumping backwards and away. I climbed my feet, trembling with anger. How I wanted to release my Super Saiyan power. I'd shut him up with that golden aura, but there were still innocent people within the area, including Melody, who I could sense nearby. If I hurt them in my rage, I'd never live it down. You should really face your weakness, he laughed. My name is Tomaki. I'm not a weakling. And you say your name like I give a shit. You're a weakling, not worthy of title or name. I screamed at him, charged and pulled back my hands, gathering ki into its center. Reject! I slammed my palms into his chest and fired my compressed ki wave. He took the brunt and did a handspring to recover. He growled in frustration. Cute. My turn. Daikon suddenly held out both hands and fired a swarm of small ki blasts. They were like a school of angry birds, charging in all directions, far too many for me to block or dodge. I tried to leap away, but they followed me like the living animals they seemed to be, seeking me out and landing, striking me with tremendous force and rage. I screamed in pain and tried to get distance. I was outraged. I was hurt. I felt the urge to collapse and start coughing. As I struggled to get back to my feet, Daikon just tapped his chin.
You know, come to think of it, you do remind me of someone.
He walked back and forth a few paces. I tried to throw a ki blast at him, and he knocked it aside with a wave of his hand, like he'd barely registered it.
You wouldn't know a Solera, would you?
Who?
Wait a sec.
He smirked and his teeth bared in amusement.
Don't tell me. Are you Solera's brat?
My whole world stopped, and the pain in my body seemed to fade a fraction. Solera's brat? Who? What?
Of course! You got those same eyes as she did. It makes sense now. She was always pretty soft for a Saiyan. I'd heard she'd had a kid, but to think he'd end up here of all places. What a small galaxy.
Is Solera my...
Aw, you seem confused. Tell you what, if you entertain me a bit more, I'll tell you about her. Might even let you in on a little more about our people. But you gotta earn that right, little weakling.
Tell me!
The prey doesn't make demands of the predator,
Daikon smirked. I felt anger flare up again. I was furious. I needed to know. Had he just revealed the name of my real mother? Did he know her? Who was she? Where was she? Why did she let me go? Was it because I was weak? Was she anything like this monster? What are Saiyans? What am I? You want to be impressed? I finally launched myself at him. Fine! The pain, a memory in my head. I'm ending this. I'm going to end you right now! I started with a flying leap towards the far-off apartment building. I then bounced off a nearby office complex and rocketed to the ground not far off of it, rebounding again and again like a jumping frog, until I was now bounding all around the field, hitting points on the ground or objects around me and shooting all about the battlefield. It was the same thing I'd done with Hayato earlier today. It was an evasive skill as well as a way to find a flaw in his defense. More speed, more speed, more! I was a blur now. I wasn't even visible to the naked eye. I had to hit him now or never.
You done springing around like a fool? Daikon asked. What's this supposed to do anyway? Make me dizzy or kill me from boredom? You're not a real Saiyan. You're a joke.
He yawned, and I saw my opening. I struck him hard with the force of a mortar rocket, and his jaw snapped to the right as he flew backwards like he'd been ejected from a cannon, and crashed into the wall. Though my speed wasn't exactly the speed Hayato expected, it done the job.
You still think I'm a joke? Now that was irritating.
Daikon snarled, crawling out of the crater he'd created.
That actually hurt, you piece of shit. I'm not done!
I raised my hands to fire a ki blast. I fired my biggest, most powerful ki wave directly at him. He stood up and held out his hands as if to catch it. With a roar, he stopped the ki blast and held it at bay. I pushed harder, but it was no use. Daikon was outmatching it. With a mighty cry of anger, Daikon threw the blast aside and sprinted at me. I threw up my defenses, but he moved too fast for me to prepare for. His fist found my stomach and I coughed, feeling my whole body shake in agony. I was thrown back. I felt tremendous pain as Daikon grabbed me by the tail and pulled hard.
Ah! I see you haven't overcome your basic weaknesses. Your tail is still weak and untrained.
Daikon smirked. He flung me across the park with a grunt and I sailed into the side of a tree, splintering it. I struggled to get up and fight back. I'd hit him with my Python Ballista, one of my best attacks, but it wasn't enough. It took tremendous effort to build up that much power. I was weak. I was untrained. Daikon, he was right about me. He was too strong for me.
And here I got my hopes up, but your power level's plummeting like a falling stone, Daikon growled. Perhaps with some training and some effort, you could have made a decent challenge. But you, like so many other Saiyans before you, are content with the power nature and biology have given you, and thus you can't defeat me.
As he jeered at me, I debated if I could. Should I use Super Saiyan? If I used it, I'd win for sure. But at what cost? Daikon's power was still untested. He was a monster. Would our colliding cause more collateral damage? I had to do what I did with Mamaragon, get him out of the city and away from civilians. I climbed to my feet shaking and struggling to keep from falling again. Fine. Why don't we take this fight outside the city then? I prayed he'd take the bait. I'll show you what I can really do.
Take it outside. So that our little fight won't hurt the bystanders.
That's yet another empathetic weakness, Daikon growled. No, Tomaki, if we fight, we do it here and now. Let go of that sympathy. Let go of that ridiculous sense of duty you have to these foolish creatures. It'll make you stronger. Or more like you. I'll never be like you! Correct, Daikon sighed. Because an insect can never become anything more than what it is. Daikon pulled back his hand, energy sparking from it like lightning. Made me nostalgic for when I fought Mamaragon. It all felt so much easier back then. Take comfort in that I let you die in battle.
Tomaki, no!
I turned to see that Melody was still standing a few hundred meters away, along with several other humans. They all looked terrified. Daikon noticed her too, and his smile faded. A friend of yours? He asked. What do you care? Daikon suddenly looked at her, and then me, and he smiled a little. A cold and sadistic sneer that I knew I would regret. Hey, weakling. Do you want to know a secret about us Saiyans? He asked. We're born assassins. We're born warriors, killers. We grow stronger with every fight, every victory, every defeat. It all teaches us, enhances us. We grow stronger and stronger endlessly. That's why Saiyans age slowly, so we can fight and improve endlessly. Judging by your hidden strength just now, I'd say you've not pushed yourself quite far enough yet. But I do see the potential. Bastard! What are you getting at? I barked. You're destined to die by my hand, weakling, Daikon laughed. But I want it to be a fight worth having. So here's what you do. I'm leaving the city for a while to find some more entertainment. You kill her. My heart stopped and I felt my eyes snap back to him. Kill her? Kill her? Her power level is only, 7,000 or 8,000, so it's nothing amazing, but it should do. Destroy her and every other mutant and cyborg in this city. Grow stronger. Push your limited potential to its maximum height. Then when you're done, keep fighting, keep killing, and when you do, I'm sure you'll be far stronger, and maybe even worth my time. Then killing you won't feel so damn boring. You're insane! I shouted. If you impress me when we fight again, I'll tell you all you want to know about Celera and our race. As a consolation before I end your life. Daikon smirked, looking at me, and then suddenly gave me a look of recognition. Haven't seen that expression in a long time. Oh, yes. You're definitely Celera's brat. I didn't say anything to that. I was too angry, too humiliated. I'd been soundly defeated by my own kind. And now he was taunting me, daring me to get stronger by killing the people I cared about, and everyone else for that matter. Is that how Saiyans get stronger? Is that what my mother did? My family? My race? What was I? See you soon, you little shit. Daikon then blasted into the sky and out of sight, his power level getting weaker and weaker as it flew further away.
Tomaki, are you okay?
She didn't need to say it. I already knew. I knew what she was thinking. I was thinking it too. I'd lost. I'd been defeated by my own kind and even spared by him too. It was the ultimate humiliation. Instead of killing me, he'd let me wallow in my defeat. Was this what Saiyans were capable of? Had I been fooling myself this whole time? I thought I'd been growing stronger, but was I really so far behind the elite of my own race? I'll be okay, Melody.
You did your best. You have nothing to be ashamed of.
Of course I do. I should have died. Tomaki, I need to get stronger. I can't let him have his way. If only we hadn't been in the city. Damn it.
Well, Tomaki, look at it this way. You fought him off and he left Shan City. You didn't need to prove anything to him. You won this fight. No one else was hurt and he's gone off somewhere else. He might have been stronger, but you'll get stronger yourself. Next time he shows up, you'll beat him for sure.
Melody encouraged. I nodded, allowing a small flame of hope to light inside of me. It was possible. It had to be. I had to be ready. I wouldn't let it end this way again. But how would I do it? My normal training methods didn't seem sufficient. Was the only way to match that animal to actually take his advice? No, I couldn't do that. But if I didn't, next time I fight him, I wish Melody, he'll wish he'd killed me.
That's the spirit, I think.
Melody laughed.
I didn't smile. For the first time in years, my heart was gone back to its roots. I was thinking about my race, Saiyans, elites, Solera. What were Saiyans? What was I? Was I destined to be like Daikon? And if so, did that mean that Bell, Hayato, and Victoria, were they all wrong about me? What the hell am I asked.
Chapter 26. Daikon landed far off from Shan City. He sneered and rubbed his cheek where Tomaki had struck him. It stung, and it felt like his jaw had been popped loose slightly. He spat on the ground and adjusted his scouter. That annoying weakling, thinking he could possibly challenge me. But he's not hopeless, I guess. There's something about that brat. I'll give him some time to stew before I try him again. But in the meantime... He glanced around, picking up various low readings, when suddenly his scouter beeped loudly, encouraging him to look at the sky. Oh, 5 impressive power levels are coming, and one even larger than the other 4. At least 200,000 each. A grin slid across his face as he realized their trajectory. It seems they'll get to fight that useless excuse for a Saiyan first. That should be excellent practice for him. Perhaps What the... Daikon spun around at first as he felt something else coming. It wasn't far behind the 5 power levels from earlier. 2 of them. What are those? That power level is bizarre. It's not normal energy. Daikon started to head in that direction when he stopped himself and snorted. Not worth it. They're going to collide in that city, and I just left the place. I'll come back another time and see what's become of it. In the meantime, I'm curious about this other reading. Daikon turned to the north, where there was a strange fluctuation of power, a power he hadn't felt on this rock or anywhere else. It wasn't typical energy. It was something more monstrous. What secrets does this planet hide? He chuckled. Maybe I wrote this world off too quickly. Come, planet Earth. Show me a good time. It seems there's a lot more fun to be had yet. I sat on the step of the dojo. Sitting next to me on my side was Melody, who was treating my injuries, while Victoria sat on my other side. Master Hayato simply stood in front of me with his arms crossed. He was really that powerful? He asked. I've never fought anyone that strong. He was stronger than Momaragon, and he probably wasn't even going all out. That's the power of a real Saiyan. Well, you're a Saiyan too, Victoria noted. No, you're a Super Saiyan. Why didn't you transform? There were innocents nearby. I couldn't risk harming them. I shook my head and looked down at my feet. I was pathetic. That's a fair statement. Hey, you weren't there, Melody snapped. Yeah, I'm sure Tomaki gave it all he had, Victoria argued. But he still lost, Hayato snarled, which means that Daikon is now confident that there's no one on this earth who can stop him from doing as he pleases. This could be our best advantage, though. Really? I asked. If Daikon thinks that you're his inferior, then he'll underestimate you the next time you fight, which means you can surprise him with your real power. But to do that, you need some additional training, and sooner rather than later. I growled and thought back to my conversation with Daikon, the things he'd said. Daikon told me things. Like what? He said that a Saiyan grows stronger after every battle. We learn from combat and get stronger. That makes sense, Melody agreed. You're definitely a lot tougher than when I fought you, and you've done a lot since then. But he said I wasn't ready yet. He wants me to kill people like he does. He says that's how Saiyans get stronger. There was a long silence. You aren't considering that, are you? Victoria asked. No, of course not, but if he's right, then what does that mean about me? Am I just the seed of a race of monsters? Is my entire race nothing more than a bunch of mad killers? Whatever they are isn't who you are, Hayato barked. You're not them, Tomaki, and you don't have to be. Even if every other Saiyan is a killer, that doesn't make you one. He also mentioned my mother. My real mother. Hayato's eyes widened and even Victoria stopped moving. Her name was Solera. Young man, he was trying to mess with your mind. Get you distracted. But if he knows who my mom and dad are, maybe I could... Tomaki. Belle may not have been your real mother, but she died trying to keep you from becoming a monster. Even if he does know them and could even introduce you, what would you do? Throw away everything here to go back to them? Doesn't a child have a right to meet his parents? I asked. I don't know what I'll do when I meet them, Solera and whoever my dad is, but I just want to see them. Know who I came from. Why'd they get rid of me? Was it because I'm weak?
Tomaki, don't beat yourself up, Victoria encouraged. You're not weak. You're powerful. More powerful than anyone I know. You'll get stronger in no time. I know you will. I smiled at her and wrapped an arm around her. Thanks. I appreciate that.
I decided to put aside the concerns about my race and my family for a moment. Those could wait.
Wait, do you hear that? Melody asked. Something's coming in really fast.
I don't hear anything. I stopped talking the instant I began to hear a loud, roaring sound. Something enormous was moving fast through the sky. I looked up to the air just in time to see a large metal monstrosity come soaring overhead. I leapt to my feet, forgetting the pain in my chest as I doubled over for a moment. Ow!
What on earth? More aliens? Victoria squeaked. The question is, are they here to cause trouble? I'm gonna go find out, Melody hissed.
I'm coming too.
Are you sure? Victoria asked. You're still not fully recovered.
I have to. I can't let these injuries slow me down. I'm a hero, right? Though I said that, it wasn't what I was really thinking. I was thinking about Daikon, about if such injuries would slow him down. If I was going to surpass him, I needed to be extraordinary, beyond anything I was before. I had to become a real Saiyan. I flew to the site of the landing where a large UFO sat waiting in the center of Shan, with people gathered all around to get a look at the strange new transportation device. I landed close to it, and people, recognizing me, all stepped away a moment. Some glad I was there, and others not sure how to feel. I was used to this sentiment, and I wasn't too concerned about it right now. Melody stepped out of the crowd too, having sprinted the whole way. Her speed was as impressive as ever. We both approached the craft and readied ourselves for what might appear. The hatch lifted ever so ominously, and out stepped 5 figures. One was tall and extremely fat, with a blubbery body and thick tree trunk-like arms. It had large and evil eyes and green skin. It was revolting to look at. Another was short and thin with blue skin, wearing a strange cloth around its head with bandages and a rope coiled around its hands and shoulders. It had pointed ears and sharp teeth and was grinning from ear to ear. Another was a female with black hair combed into a feminine-looking mohawk style that folded over on one side. She wore tight, leather-style clothing, and from her rear a long tail could be seen. Her body was a reddish hue, and her eyes were deep yellow. Beside her stood a muscular man with blue skin similar to the short alien. His eyes were even the same black color. He had a small beard, and he wore a vest that exposed his chest and abs. Strapped to his back was a massive blade of some sort. But the most intimidating of them all stood behind them and next to the fat one. He was the second tallest and also sported impressive muscles. His jaw was large and his eyes were a sharp and sinister color. He had dark skin and no hair on his head other than a small goatee on his chin. He wore a large belt around his middle and a necklace of what appeared to be severed ears and fangs. And the necklace was made of some sort of fur that looked familiar. I couldn't place it though. Wherever I'd seen that necklace material for, I couldn't tell.
A welcoming committee, the short one laughed. Can we say hi? Maybe have a little party?
Silence, Tuka, the one with the necklace snarled. Clearly he was the leader. His eyes fell upon Melody and we both readied ourselves. Ratma, are those two worth our time? The tall, blue-skinned one stepped forward and held his finger to his forehead and closed his eyes. I felt a strange energy wash over me for a brief moment, and then Ratma sighed. One isn't even a living organism. The other does have a high power level, but otherwise, not much, sir. Pity. Then Daikon has moved on. Daikon! I shouted, suddenly remembering my voice. You know Daikon? I asked. The leader glanced at me with a raised eyebrow. Is he still here? Why do you want to find him? Are you friends of his? The fat one laughed loudly, his fat belly jiggling like jello. Saiyans don't have friends, it chuckled. No, but we are here to know him better. Their leader just scoffed at me. If you must know who we are the Galactic Poachers. And our only interest on this useless rock is the Saiyan Daikon. We're here for his head and his tail. I suddenly realized what the necklace on the leader's neck reminded me of. That furry substance. It was just like my tail. That necklace was constructed from the tails of Saiyans. This man, this thing, was capable of killing Saiyans. If you stay out of our way, we'll not harm you. Intentionally, anyway.
Tomaki, do we engage?
Melody asked. At the sound of my name, the girl looked at me closely.
Tomaki. That name sounds familiar. It's a Saiyan name.
She stared at me and suddenly her eyes widened at the side of my tail.
Ratma, I thought you said this one's power level wasn't anything worthwhile. That boy is a Saiyan.
Ratma flushed and rounded on her. Shut up, Nix. He must be able to hide his energy is all. Both of you shut up, the leader hissed angrily. Both stopped bickering immediately and went rigid, terrified of the anger of their leader. Either way, this is quite a surprise. Boy, are you really a Saiyan? I wasn't sure what to say for a moment. Yes, I was a Saiyan, but after my fight with Daikon, did I have the right to call myself one? I lacked the power of a Saiyan, the skill of a Saiyan. The only proof I had that I was one was my tail, and the fact that I could power up to a Saiyan.
Tomaki, Melody noticed. Tomaki, are you okay?
Guess we're a bit of a surprise to him. He's definitely not our target. The one known as Daikon would have attacked us the minute he laid eyes on us. This one is a Saiyan, but not in the same caliber as Daikon. I felt a spark light up in my stomach at the insult. Oh, it was indeed an insult. I gritted my teeth and felt my ki rise like a rushing wave. I would not let that go unchallenged. I was not to be so easily discarded. Hey! You want a Saiyan tail to add to your necklace? Try me first. Melody gave a smile and then turned her attention back to her foes. The leader shrugged his shoulders in an aggravatedly bored way. Whatever you want, kid. It's your move, he said, gesturing at me and Melody in his cocky manner. We stared at each other, daring the other side to move first. My mind was already playing out every scenario I could to go down at them with a big ki blast or maybe a direct reject shot. What if I tried the Python Ballista? That worked great on Daikon, and then I remembered. It kept flashing in my eyes. I'd been knocked down by him, how I'd lost to him. Could I win this time? Was I strong enough? I felt myself hesitating, felt myself doubting myself. Snap out of it, snap out of it! Hold it right there! Oh, what now? The leader of the poachers turned, looking up. Every one of us turned their attention to the far side of the crowd, where two figures were making their way forward. Both were clad in identical full-body armor that looked like something straight from a science fiction video game. Pitch black with blue pulsing veins and lights flashing from different points. The two armored warriors stepped into the center of the action, and both pulled out strange, energy-style swords from their belts, aiming them at both the poachers and myself. I tried to get a feel on their energy, but it was strange. Not exactly what I was expecting. The energy I was getting wasn't quite ki energy. It was something else. Were they aliens too? In the name of the Galactic Patrol, Special Unit Division, all of you are under arrest. Do not resist. All right. I got a question. How many chapters does this story have? I don't remember. Let me take a look real fast. Well, I got a minute to rest my voice. Okay, so not including the sequel or the short stories about Tomaki, this story has 65 chapters. And we are on chapter 27.
Galactic what?
Melody asked. The poacher just sneered in their direction. Should have known those worthless patrollers would be on our tail, Rotma sneered. Master Vokon, what do we do? He asked. This leader, Master Vokon, just glared from Tomaki and Melody to the patrollers. He simply sighed and crossed his arms. We're here for Daikon. That is our prey. Then let me devour them, Master Vokon. The fat one laughed, his mouth drooling hungrily. I'm truly ravenous. Let me have these weaklings.
Ugh, your ravenous attitude is disgusting, Joga.
Nyx hissed, wrinkling her nose. If you want them, Joga, have your fun, but we're going on ahead. Ratma, you are to break off from the group and begin your search for Daikon. If you find him, do not engage. Simply wait for us to regroup. You're no match for him on your own. As you command, Master Vokon, he nodded. And as for you, Joga, Eat your fill, but do not underestimate your prey, Vogon finished. Poachers, move out. The 4 remaining poacher aliens all leapt into the air, flying off in the same way I often did. I snarled as they flew away, ready to give chase.
Tomaki, watch out!
Melody screamed. I glanced up just in time to see the obese monster that was Joga appear in front of me at mind-boggling speed and strike at my face. I leapt away from the lunging strike and got distance. You shouldn't be so distracted, Tomaki. I'm gonna gobble you up for lunch otherwise. We'll just see about that. Melody, go ahead and chase after those poacher guys, if you can. I'll handle this one.
Alright, but you be careful, Tomaki.
Both of you stay where you are. Melody and I both looked at the 2 armored galactic patrol people approach. You are both wanted for questioning. Allow us to contend with this criminal, the tall one instructed. I just sneered and looked at Melody. I'm sorry, did you hear something?
Nope, nothing important,
Melody answered. Neither did I. Be safe. Melody then sprinted after the poachers. Yadrin, the tall patroller muttered. The shorter patroller nodded and shot after Melody like a bullet. I made a move to intercept the armored rocket, but was blocked by another swing from the fat Joga. Melody! Pay attention to me, mortal! Gah! I suddenly felt a massive fist of Joga smash into my side, and I was flung backward into a car, creating a massive dent in the steel side. I climbed on my feet shakily and built up my ki. You tubby lump of lard! Eat this! I fired my strongest blast at the beast, intent to watch him vaporize, but to my surprise, Joga opened his wide mouth and began eating the blast. I instantly broke the blast and stared in disgust and horror as Joga smacked his lips and laughed, his large, beady eyes glaring at me in a mockingly hungry way. That was pretty tasty, Saiyan. Got any more for me? What the hell are you? He's a Glottomonian, the armored patroller answered, walking next to me carefully and professionally. They are a gluttonous race of aliens who feed on energy and power, and then add that power to their own. Your ki blast will do little to him other than strengthen him. So you're an alien too? As are you, Saiyan. Reserve your criticism and questions for later. Right now, I fear I'll need your assistance. My power is not sufficient to handle this beast. I'll need some backup. Then go call off your partner and have her back you up. I'm not your friend, I snapped back. Most Glottomonians are very slow and sluggish creatures, but the way he moved earlier reveals that this one has consumed a lot of energy already. He's far stronger than most I've seen. I sent my partner after your friend because she is in no way ready for this kind of opponent. Hopefully you're a bit more skilled. Just don't get my way, Captain Tin Can, I growled. Stop talking! I'm hungry! He darted towards us with surprising speed for one so big. Saiyan, attack his stomach with all you've got, the patroller ordered. Why? I shouted. I had no time to wait for his answer. I had to make a split-second decision. I had to either trust this guy or do things my way. And with the speed that Joga was coming at me, I needed to make that choice fast. Fine! Reject! I lunged forward and fired my high-focus ki blast right into the stomach of the beast, causing an eruption of power and stopping the overweight monster in its tracks. Oh! It grunted, clutching its stomach. You dumb piece of... I looked up to see the patroller leap into the air and slam his fist down on Joga's head, smashing it almost completely into his blubbery body and back out, blood dripping from its nose and ear. He then landed next to me, his helmet hiding his face so I could practically feel the smile behind it. Good hit, Saiyan. My name is Tomaki. Very well, and mine is Hosha, he answered. That still doesn't make me your ally, nor I yours, but for now I think we have little choice but to trust each other. Joga was getting back to his feet, and he was fuming. He raised both of his chubby hands and began firing rapid ki blasts at us. Die, you pests! Hosh and I leapt back, dodging the incoming bats with relative ease. I found an opening and charged with all my speed. I struck Joga in the side hard, only to find that my fist sank into the flesh. What? Joga laughed as he swatted me away with his free hand. I felt the pain as he struck, and then the crushing shock of hitting another bus, knocking it over with my collision. It's no good. They're a kind of bodies that absorb physical damage like a sponge, Hosha shouted. I got up and rubbed my bleeding cheek. Crap, this guy's so bizarre. How do I hurt him? You don't! I looked up to see Joga above me, coming down at me like a belly flopper off the high dive. I dove out of the way and spun around to face him quickly. Just as I landed and began to catch my breath, he opened his mouth again and fired an intense ki blast from his open mouth. I jumped again to get out of the way, and Hosha dodged just as fast, running in the opposite direction. I'm gonna eat you both. Then I'll go to the next town, and the next, eating everyone I see. I'll kill you first, I snapped. Calm down, Tomaki, Hosha ordered. That reject attack you used earlier was a good attack. Can you do it again? Of course I can. Then I have a plan, Hosha whispered, approaching me and leaning in close so that Joga couldn't hear. You two plotting something? It's useless! He sprinted at us with that same lightning speed. You sure that's gonna work? Yes, Hosha chuckled. Trust me on this. I rebounded off the ground. I dodged two and rocketed towards Jogan at maddening speed. I struck him hard in the chest and once again felt my fists sinking deeply, getting absorbed into the layers of fat. But I didn't let up. I punched again and again and again. My arms were a blur of motions. I punched faster and faster. Despite my punches sinking into his body, he was actually beginning to move back. He was feeling the pressure. It ain't gonna work, Joga laughed. Your dumb punches ain't got nothing on me. But suddenly, just as he was starting to get arrogant, Hosha suddenly leapt up behind Joga and pulled back his hand as a bright green energy built into his fist. He opened his hand again and aimed it facing Joga at the same instant, firing a brilliant green light into Joga's face. It struck him, and then he landed behind him and struck him in the back. The fat around his body began absorbing the shot, but in doing so, my own fist was being repelled. His fat was thick, but not thick enough to absorb both of us at the same time. I saw the opening Hosha had made and slammed my hand forcefully against his chest. And then, reject! I shouted, releasing a concentrated ki blast directly into his exposed chest. Without any fat to stop the blow, the ki blast found its intended target. Joga screamed in pain as his internal organs were rocked by the shot. I followed up and climbed up his huge body and aimed both of my open palms at his face. And now, show 10! A burst of ki met Joga's ugly mug and sent him sprawling backwards, crashing to the ground and crushing two cars in the process. I watched and waited, wanting to see if he'd get up. But he lay motionless. I'd gotten him. Jeez, Fatty didn't go down easy, huh? Guess I really needed your help after all. Actually, he's just unconscious. He just can't get up, Hosha sighed. Glottomonians have massive bodies, making them hard to knock over and durable. But they're so fat that they can't actually lift themselves up if they fall over. That's why wrestling matches on Glottomon 2 often result in death, because the loser falls on their back and can no longer get up. Seriously? So I have a weakling like that on your team? I asked. Likely because he was a convenient scapegoat for the poachers. He wasn't meant to beat us. If I know Volkan at all, he just sent Joga as a necessary sacrifice to keep us off his tail. Then why'd you send your partner to stop Melody? She could have kept her eyes on them, I snapped back. Your friend would have been killed instantly. Neither of you know Volkan at all. He's far stronger than any ordinary Saiyan. And speaking of which, I understand you're not the only Saiyan on this planet. Daikon landed here too. Seems Daikon's a real popular guy, I asked. He is a terrorist, Hosha explained. 11 years ago, he was charged as a criminal by King Vegeta, ruler of all Saiyans. He was sentenced to exile on pain of death, and since then has been wandering the galaxy, causing pain and death wherever he goes. He's a criminal? What did he do? From what we understand, he massacred his own subordinates in the Saiyan army. Not that those charges are relevant anymore. He's a galactic criminal now, and that's what matters. Why not just let the two kill each other, then? Seems easier that way. Well, for one thing, it's against galactic law. And secondly, if I did let them have at it, the resulting battle would cause massive collateral damage. I'd rather not let that happen. But I've spoken long enough about this. The soldier, Hosha, turned to face me directly and held out his hand as a green energy sphere built up into it. It seemed he was keen on arresting me now, too. You really want to do this? After what we just went through? You're one cold bastard. No, but there are laws that are put in place. This planet falls under the jurisdiction of the Galactic Judiciary, and you are an unregistered vigilante in this area. That cannot be allowed. Surrender or prepare to do battle, Saiyan Tomaki. Fine, but before we do this, mind if I ask you who and what you are? I can't sense your ki energy. Well, that's because I don't use it. I'm Hosha Ibalder. I, along with my partner Yadrin, are a race known as the Gaikans. Our planet is thick with huge radiation levels no other living creature could live through, and because of this, our race produces intense levels of radiation from our bodies that not even we can regulate. We are a danger to anyone and everyone around us, which is why we wear this heavy armor, specifically designed to siphon and contain our radiation energy. It's not to protect us, Saiyan. It's to protect you. Now, I'll say it again. Surrender or prepare to do battle, Saiyan. I simply stood still, thinking on what to do next. This Hosha had helped me stop a monster from destroying me and my city. He was clearly on the side of justice, but now he thought I was his enemy and he wasn't in a mood to listen. If I fought him, would that be the right path to take? Would I be able to handle his strange radiation energy power? If his partner was the same race as him, how is Melody holding up against her? I don't want to fight you, I whispered. You know you are the first Saiyan to ever say those words, Hosha chuckled. which should say something towards my character, right? I'm not here to cause trouble or look for my own justice. I'm helping law enforcement on this planet and trying to keep the peace. Can't you overlook the lesser evil here to deal with the bigger one? I'd like to believe that, but I know Saiyan treachery and destruction all too well. I've seen what they can do. Well, I haven't, I growled. Hosha paused a moment and lowered his hand. You're one of the rejects, sent to this planet as a babe to destroy it. A reject, huh? Is that all I was to my people and my family? Saiyans are a ruthless breed. They judge all things by strength, even their infants. A baby is judged at birth by its power level. Anything below a certain threshold, and it's not deemed worthy. To prove your worth, you are sent to weak planets to grow up and conquer the populace. If they succeed, they are permitted to return to planet Vegeta, though it seems that fate is beyond anyone now. What do you mean? Well, planet Vegeta, it's...
Captain Hosha!
Both Hosha and I turned around to see Melody and Yadrin running towards us. Yadrin's helmet was off now, and I could clearly see that she looked somewhat human in the face, with long red hair and blue eyes, though her skin was slightly yellow-green in tint. Her eyes also looked a bit big for her head. She was panting and out of breath. Yadrin, what happened? Hosha asked.
I pursued the girl as you ordered, and we fought briefly, but during the fight she revealed to me what's been going on with this planet. Sir, this Saiyan here did battle with Daikon. He's not aiding the enemy, Yadrin cried.
Well, I figured that.
That's not all, sir. One of the poachers broke off from the others, pursuing Daikon as we speak, and if the two should meet...
We need to find out where the poacher is headed immediately. If Daikon and the poachers collide, there's no telling who will be caught in the crossfire. Hosha turned to me in Melody. I believe that this time we'll look the other way on your behalf, and while it might be inappropriate, I may need your help again. If you're truly not our enemy, I'd be foolish to dismiss you as a potential friend. Farewell. We'll meet again, Tomaki. With his final words spoken, he and Yadrin took off in the direction of the poachers before. I could ask him to explain what he knew about Planet Vegeta, but I shook my head in disappointment. He probably didn't want to now. Then I turned to Melody. Melody, you okay? She nodded, grunting a little and brushing herself off.
I've been better, but I'm okay.
Was she tough? I asked. Melody was covered in bruises, but otherwise she seemed fine.
Nothing I can't handle. Her radiation powers don't affect me. I'm not organic after all, remember? She teased. But she was pretty strong otherwise. But I think I would have won if she hadn't come to her senses.
Right. So what do you think? Are they our allies or our enemies? I asked.
Well, honestly, Tomaki, considering how many new enemies we've earned, I'd really like them to be our allies right now.
Chapter 28. Daikon stood in the middle of a small clearing of a forest. It was a beautiful spot, and Daikon couldn't help smiling at the simplicity and modesty of the scene. It wasn't often he got to look around and appreciate something so peaceful, at least not until he got to ruin it. Peaceful moments like these were welcome, especially when he knew it wouldn't be long before blood would stain the grass beneath him. His scouter went off in mere seconds after thinking this, and he smirked. What's this? A power level of... My, 300,000. That's quite a high level for something off this rock. Who do I have the pleasure of meeting? Daikon asked, turning. Behind him stood a strange alien man with blue skin and a goatee beneath his chin. He was sneering both cockily and excitedly. You're the Saiyan Daikon? He asked. If I am. The same who traveled across at least 4 star systems and caused mass destruction along the way? Are you in the habit of asking stupid questions? Daikon asked. Tell me who you are and what you want before I get bored of this conversation. My name is Rotma. I'm the tracker of the Galactic Poachers. Have you heard of us? Daikon smiled at that. The Poachers are after my tail now, are they? I should be flattered if your little band of bounty hunters were actually worth your own hype. So who hired you to kill me? You needn't worry about that. I'm here to take you down, Saiyan. Rotma stepped back and dark energy began to form in his fist. Daikon just raised an eyebrow and snorted. Where's your leader? Where's Vokon, the supposed Death Herald? He's not here. Wanted me to meet you first, in fact. Now, Saiyan, are you... What are you laughing at? Daikon was rolling with laughter as he gripped his side. This is hilarious! Your master must have sent you on a suicide mission. Either that or he's a coward himself. Why else would you be sent here alone? Silence and die! Ratma fired the dark energy which rushed for Daikon at destructive speeds. Daikon leapt over the shot with relative ease and landed behind Ratma. Ratma spun around to strike him and Daikon grabbed his wrist before it made contact. Suddenly, Ratma felt the weight of Daikon's foot as it dug into his leg with a crushing back kick. Ratma screamed in pain and jumped back to gain distance. I'm not done with you! I won't lose to you! Lose? Daikon asked. No, I assure you, Ratma, that you can't lose. That would imply we were actually fighting. Of course we're fighting, fool! What do you call this? Just killing time, Daikon answered. Ratma roared and fired a rapid-fire burst of energy shots, all of them sparking and burning with power. Daikon swatted down any that came near him as Ratma closed the distance and struck Daikon hard in the stomach. Daikon grunted a little as the hit Ratma landed and smiled. You better start taking me more seriously. I'm a Doppelorian. You know what we can do. Never heard of them, Daikon answered, rubbing his stomach. Ratma stepped back and roared at the skies, began to grow hair all over his body. He gained over 500 pounds of raw muscle as he grew in body and power. Daikon's scouter beat wildly with excitement as he watched Ratma become a terrifying beast before his very eyes. Interesting change, Daikon sighed. Ratma charged Daikon and raised his clawed fist to crush him. Daikon jumped out of the way of the claw and floated into the air, shaking his head. An interesting change, but ultimately unimpressive, Daikon sighed. Your power level shrank back down to 250,000. That transformation gives you more strength, but your intelligence and discipline drop considerably. And for a warrior, all of those factors play a role. You're nothing more than a beast. A waste. Not even worth killing my boredom. As if he couldn't understand what was being said, Ratma screamed again and leapt up at Daikon to crush him, walking right into Daikon's hand as he built up a deadly beam of energy in his fingers. Do the sighted world a favor and vanish. Over 2 miles away, farmers and groundsfolk heard what sounded like an explosion and saw brilliant light from deep in the woods. None could fathom what had just transpired, only 2 miles away from their quiet home. However, now, Ratma, in his last moments, realized why Vokon had urged him not to engage the Saiyan Daikon.
Well, that sounds like a real adventure, Victoria smiled as she sat with me outside of school.
I hadn't slept last night, and now I was outside of high school with Victoria tired and drained. I told her everything that happened, and Victoria clung to every word.
So what happened to those Galactic Patrol people?
Not sure, I answered. They took off after the poachers, and I didn't hear anything from them again the rest of the evening.
And how do you feel after that fight?
Victoria asked. Intimidated, maybe? I never thought that there would be so many out there who could rival a Saiyan in power, or at least rival me.
You don't think you're a Saiyan? Victoria laughed. You used to go on and on when we were kids about your Saiyan pride, and
no, it's not that I'm not a Saiyan. I'm not sure I'm so proud of it anymore, I answered.
Why not? Because of Daikon?
Daikon is being hunted by the poachers and by the patrol because of the destruction he caused, and he's out there causing destruction somewhere else. I couldn't come close to his power. If that's what Saiyan power and Saiyan pride is about, I'm not sure I want anything to do with it anymore. Victoria fell silent and a frown crept across her face.
Tomaki, you shouldn't be ashamed of what you are.
I will not be like Daikon.
Well, you aren't like him at all. You prove that every day.
But that's just it, Victoria. I don't want to be like him, but what if that's the reason I can't beat him? He claimed I lacked the power to go beyond myself, to become more. Yesterday, I had to accept help from that patroller to deal with that fat tub of lard alien. What if I really am weaker than I realized?
You are anything but weak, Victoria argued. You beat Mamaragon and his entire triad in just a few weeks. You just need to learn to control that power.
I smiled at her before standing up. I'll talk to Hayato about getting back into some real training. What I know now can't be enough. If you're right, I just have to get stronger.
I know you'll do what you have to, but Tomaki, please, don't do anything reckless. We all worry about you, you know. Melody, Hayato, and myself. We all do care about you,
Victoria whispered, standing up and walking behind me, hugging me from behind. I nodded slowly and turned to gaze at her. I felt the urge to tear up build within me. I was so lucky to have her holding me like this. But the more I looked at her, the more I thought about Mom, how she'd looked in her last moments.
I wouldn't. I couldn't let Victoria end up the same way. I simply couldn't. That's why I needed power, so she could hold me like this, and I wouldn't have to hold her in my arms as her life ran in red streams down my fingers. I promise. I promise I'll be stronger for you, Victoria. I don't need you to be stronger. I need you to be safe. After she let go, I took a few steps away and smiled at her, watching her smile back. I lifted myself into the air. Do you need a ride home? I asked. No, Dad's coming to get me. But will I see you tomorrow? Absolutely. Until then. I rocketed off towards Hayato's dojo to get started on my training. Excitement and joy in every inhale I took. Master! I called out, landing at the door. Master Hayato, we need to talk! It wasn't Master Hayato who answered the door, though. Melody was the one who swung the door open, but there was a frightened look on her face. She gazed at me in concern, and then her eyes turned their attention to the training yard. What's happening? I demanded.
It's Hayato. He's...
I didn't wait for her to finish. I leapt over her and into the yard immediately, ready to fight. There stood Master Hayato with the two armored patrollers from yesterday. They were facing each other. Hayato's face contorted in a look of annoyance. I couldn't tell what the patrollers' faces looked like behind their helmets, but the way they stood made it seem less friendly and more aggressive. Master Hayato! I shouted, running to him. Hayato glanced at me and gave a smirk. Well, what good timing. Seems my disciple is here now. You can ask him yourselves, Hayato snarled. Ask me what exactly? These two giving you trouble, Master? We didn't come here to cause harm or trouble, Osha spoke up. We simply came to offer a word of warning regarding the poachers and you. Me? Oh, is it because I'm a Saiyan? They didn't answer, which was all the answer I needed. I'm not like Daikon. That remains to be seen, Osha answered. With 3 poachers remaining and 2 Saiyans still walking this planet. Wait, 3 poachers? You and I finished one of them, but there were 4 others.
The one called Ratma was found dead, Yadra replied. Or at least what was left of him was recovered.
He was killed, I asked. Ratma apparently tried to fight Daikon alone, Hosha sneered. I felt a chill run up my spine at this news, but it wasn't just fear I felt. It was excitement. I was excited by this. Why? I shouldn't be, but the thought of that kind of power and being able to reach that level excited me. Could I reach it? Of course I could. I was a Saiyan too. I could certainly be that strong, right? Someone like you can't be like me. An insect can never rise above what it is. Those were Daikon's words, and I gritted my teeth in anger as I remembered them. I wouldn't be like him. I'd be better than him. Where is he now? I asked. Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you, Hosha answered. You're not strong enough to handle him, and frankly, I'm not even cocky enough to think I could contend with that animal. Then what's your plan, Captain Tin Can? I snapped.
Show some respect,
Yadrin barked. Hosha silenced her with a gesture before turning to face me directly. My plan is to wait for reinforcements from the Galactic Patrol. They should be here within a few weeks, and in the meantime we'll monitor his movements and I hope, and just hope he doesn't destroy every city on the planet before then? I asked. Hayato nodded. I understand caution, but ignoring the issue isn't going to make it go away either, Hayato pointed out. Master, I'd like you to begin training me in more advanced techniques. Hayato shot me a look and nodded carefully. I'm sure you're ready, he added. I nodded and Hosha took a step forward. So it's true. This is where you've been coming to train? After the events of last night, we traced your energy to this location. And when we learned it was a martial arts training dojo, we had a hunch that you were being trained here. Sir, are you aware of the lineage and race of the boy you're training? Yes, and I don't care. It's what a person does that matters to me, not where they come from, Hayato answered. Tomaki has always expressed nothing but the purest of intentions. It is a Saiyan's nature to destroy and gain power, Hosha replied. It won't be long before that instinct overrules all others. That's not true, I shouted, but even as I argued, I felt guilty. I had been that way most of my young life, seeking more opponents and stronger foes, and even now I was getting excited at the prospect of surpassing Daikon. Was it true? Would it be dangerous for me to gain too much power? I thought back. The moment when I nearly let Hermes die. The sensation of power and rage I felt when I fought Mamaragon. There was truth to what Hosha was saying.
I trust Tomaki.
I turned around to see Melody standing by the door of the dojo, looking at Hosha and Yadren angrily. She marched out towards him and crossed her arms.
I trust him. He saved my life when he could have easily left me to die. I'm going to help him beat Daikon and these poachers. You can help us if you want, but if all you're going to do is call him a monster, like Daikon, then get lost and let real heroes work.
I couldn't hide the beam of satisfaction I felt for Melody's defense. She truly saw a hero in me, just like Victoria and Hayato and Mom.
I nodded and returned a cold glare to Hosha. So what'll it be? Hosha glanced at Yadren and then back at me, taking off his helmet at last. He had golden brown hair cut short, and he had a scar on his forehead, but otherwise he looked rather human with that yellowish-green skin. I'll have my eye on you, Tomaki, but for now we can't afford to turn away any allies. The Galactic Patrol will accept any help you can offer in subduing the poachers and Daikon when the time comes. Then we have an arrangement? I believe we do, Hosha agreed, extending his hand. I gripped it firmly and shook, pleased to have a new friend and ally in this fight, which seemed to be getting worse with each passing day. I'm probably going to call it there tonight. I'll go ahead and change the name of the stream real quick. I'm probably going to call it there. One second. Adjusting some things in the video. There we go. Alright. Okay. Yeah, we're only going to do 4 chapters tonight. Couple reasons why. One is because I'm still pretty tired from work today, which is bothering me, and my throat's a little bit worn out already. And also because, I'll be real honest, there's been a lot of rule breaking in chat tonight. Like, I was getting very distracted quite often because the chat kept talking about games, murder drones, and very much was distracting. I'm not too upset about it because, I mean, one of ours is new, Nina's very new, and she's not familiar with the rules, but some of y'all have been here long enough, you know the rules, and I was very disappointed. So we're gonna go ahead and call it there, because all that chat stuff has been distracting, and just not in the mood to keep reading right now. Okay. We will not be reading next week because I'll be going home Monday to visit family, so I will not be in town to do any reading, so we'll have to reconvene when I get back. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. Kind of disappointed, but that's how it goes sometimes. All right. Good night.